Hey, what is up guys? Fintan here from Damson Cloud, and this week I want to talk about the difference between working from home during the lockdown and the reality of working from home under normal circumstances. If you want to know more, you know what to do. Stay tuned. So this week, I wanted to take a little bit of time to contrast the difference between working from home during the lockdown and working from home under normal circumstances. Here at Damson Cloud, we've been working remotely or working from home for over a decade. And so we have quite a lot of experience with working from home during sort of normal circumstances. And I think that often people feel that the current lockdown environment is, the norm in terms of working from home. This is how it has been and how it is for normal remote workers. And it really isn't. And I just wanted to contrast those couple of things that I've found to be very different from working from home during the pandemic over the last year and what it's been like over the previous 10 years, as I said, under kind of normal circumstances. So let's get into it. So the first one is kind of obvious. There's a big global pandemic on, and that is a huge stress on everybody. It puts a huge amount of pressure on workers and companies and families, and our window of tolerance for things is squeezed quite a bit already. So that's the first thing that everybody is dealing with, and we just need to be conscious of that and cognizant of it, both as team members, as managers, as bosses, and as companies. I've got 4 different areas that I want to cover. So the first one is, how does it feel? Well, during the lockdown, it was quite panicked, wasn't it? Everybody had to work from home immediately. There was no time to plan or anything like that. It happened very, very quickly. And so this kind of panic, made it difficult for everybody. People had to quickly find spaces to work from home. They had to really quickly adjust. And as human beings, let me tell you, we hate change. We do a lot of change management here at Damson Cloud, and change is something that a lot of people will fight against. And it's very stressful for everybody. And so we had this huge change thrust upon us, again, both dealing with the global pandemic, but also having to deal with this change in our work lives and our work environments straight away. So that's the first thing. Normally, if you were going to go work from home, it wouldn't happen all of a sudden. You would plan it out. You would think about what it might look like. You would look at your space at home. You would think about the schedule of people working in your house. And so it would be much more organized and much more planned, both with yourself and with your company. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your workspace. And again, this was something that affected a lot of people, that they had to, in an emergency, find a workspace in a house that maybe didn't have a workspace before. Some of us did have workspaces, like myself, who work from home or maybe had a spare room, and were able to quickly adjust or change that to suit them for working from home. But many people had to find, a kitchen table, a fold-out desk. People had to buy desks. I even saw some people finding spaces under the stairs, or one person working on a bedside locker. So people have really had to make do with lots of different kind of cobbled together setups. So that sort of, again, emergency workspace was very panicked and very sudden. If you were working from home normally, obviously, again, you would be planning this. You would be thinking about your workspace, and you would have bought the equipment that you need, or had your company get the equipment that you needed. Hopefully, if you were lucky, you might even have a dedicated space to work from home. But again, you would have thought this through a long, long time before you actually moved to working from home. And then the next one is your home space. So again, your home space is being invaded by children who are maybe not normally there because they would be in school, or maybe your spouse is, or even other people who just live in your house, housemates, maybe also working from home. And so this overlap of lots of other people working from home, trying to also figure out all of these things as well, is again an added stress on everybody. And so that window of tolerance is really being squeezed at this stage. And again, if you, outside of the pandemic, you would be in a situation where you would have planned that. Maybe you would work from home on days where there were less people in the house, or you might again find that dedicated space, which was a little bit quieter and a little bit more planned and easier to work from home. And then the last area that I feel is different is companies. Companies have had this thrust upon them as well. And your company may not be open to this idea of working from home. They may feel panicked themselves about it. They may worry about people's productivity, about how much work is getting done and how they can track the work that is being done, because they're used to seeing people in the office. So again, this is a huge change that's been thrust upon organizations as well, and we just need to be cognizant of that. Under normal circumstances, you would have discussed it with your company, you would have planned it out. They would be able to plan for you working from home, whether it's testing it out for a day or so a week, and know that projects aren't going to slip, that productivity isn't going to be affected. And so again, we just need to be conscious of this change. So next, I'd just like to go through a couple of pointers that I have for both individuals and companies. So for individuals, I recommend that if at all possible, you try to create a space that is your work from home space within your house. I know, again, within an emergency situation, people may not have been able to get all of the equipment that they need, or they may not have space in their house to work. But I've seen some really innovative ideas here where people have done things like created a space that they convert into something else, or sort of tidy everything away, and it's their kind of sewing area during the weekend, and then they convert it back into their workspace during the week. I've seen other ones where after people do their exercise in the morning, they have a fold-up desk that they take out, and that's actually part of their routine of getting into the idea of working for the next 8 hours. And so even if you have a small space, there are quite innovative ideas I've seen from people out there that they're just trying to work within that challenge and figure out what is the best way that they can create a safe, quiet environment for them to work in for that period of time. And then, you know, really communicating with other people in your household about, you know, that workspace, and that's what you're using it for. My next two are around taking breaks. So I recommend that you go for a walk in the morning. You've missed out on your commute. And I've seen quite a few people who have liked the idea of going for a walk in the morning. I know we do this in our house. When the kids are in school, we drop our son off to school, and myself and my other half, Leslie, would go for a walk in the morning around, there's a park nearby with some lakes, and we'd walk the dog, and then we would come home and start work. And we found that very, very valuable for just getting our headspace, you know, being out in the open, getting a bit of exercise, but also just getting us into the headspace ready for work. And when we miss our walks in the morning, if we get up late, we definitely find that the morning is not as productive. So I would definitely recommend that. And then as a follow-up to that, I'd recommend that you take breaks. It's very easy when you're working from home to just keep going. You don't have the natural sort of idea of other people kind of going for lunch or taking breaks, and you're like, oh, John's gone for a smoke or grabbing a coffee, I'm also going to do that. You don't have necessarily those natural things. So plan those into your day. At 11 o'clock, I always take a break. We take a break as a household now. We have again, the kids at home with, you know, everybody has the kids at home with the schools closed in many countries. And so we all take a break together, all three of us, and we go and have a little tea break. And it's a great way to just take breaks. And that sort of leads into my next one, which is to socialize. That normally you would have that social interaction with other people, whereby you would be, you know, again, not in lockdown. I would be working from home, but I would be meeting friends for lunch. I would be, you know, meeting up with people, maybe going into town some days, and you would have that social interaction that you're not getting in person. So try to socialize with the people in your house on your breaks, on lunch. I know you'll want some time alone as well. You're maybe all in the same house too, so it's important to do that. But it's important to have that social element, and so try to do that at different times. Next is around communication with your company. And I'd recommend that you have both passive and active communication. Passive communication is where you do things like fill out your calendar, your task management, your project management tool. And then active communication is being present in a meeting, turning your camera on, really important, huge pet peeve of mine. I don't understand why people do that. In huge meetings, yes, when there's like 50 people or 100 people or something. But again, if you're in a small team meeting, turn your camera on, engage with your team, be present as an employee. It will be helpful to your team and to your company and to management. It will show that you are, you know, being active as a team member. But then also passive communication is really important. So we use this at Damson, where we have people fill out their calendars with just what they're doing. If they don't end up doing that, that's fine. They just sort of move them around and put in what they did do that day. It acts as a great record, so you can kind of look back and kind of see when, you know, what you did last week or the week before. But also it's that passive communication where I can just glance at my own calendar and I can see, oh, Alina's doing that, Sam's doing that today. I know maybe, you know, not to interrupt them because they're doing some dedicated work or intense work. And so it's a great way of just passively communicating with people, filling out your comments on your task management system or your project management system. It allows people to know that you're working, that you're keeping things up to date, and that you're making progress on tasks and projects without having to bother you. You know, and that's really what ends up happening, is people don't bother each other as much by having that sort of what I call passive communication, where you're filling systems in and the systems are doing that job of communicating for you. Next up, we have some advice for companies. What I would recommend for companies is to support your staff. Make sure that you're putting in place the tools, hint Google, that you need to, or that they need to communicate effectively and work from home effectively. So make sure you have tools like Google Workspace, like Office 365, like Dropbox, that allow you to work remotely, or Zoom, or whatever conferencing or collaboration tools you're using. Make sure you have those type of tools in place. But also make sure that you're supporting staff with things like desks and chairs and, you know, laptop stands, stuff that they will need, whether that is providing physical equipment that was in your office, or whether that's providing funds for them to purchase equipment. Make sure that you're supporting people in that. It is wrong to expect them, when they're working from home, using their electricity and their broadband and things like that to work for you, to not provide things like desks and chairs and stuff like that. So support your employees. The next one kind of ties into that, which is around, please don't be one of those companies that is a big brother, that is constantly watching what companies are doing. I saw so many companies rush out and try to find tracking tools and things like that. Focus on those that passive communication. Find project management, task management tools. You know, talk to your employees and have, you know, weekly stand-ups and meetings that keep people engaged, rather than trying to find ways to track people. I know in certain circumstances, maybe you have a support ticket system, you need to be able to track how many support tickets are being logged or done, or response times, stuff like that. That makes sense. But in general, tracking everything that people are doing on your computer is really big brother stuff, and it's what people want to move away from. You want to be a company that trusts your employees, and that trust goes both ways. So employees need to do the things I was talking about to make sure that companies do trust them. But you need to find other ways. You know, 99% of employees are going to be doing their work, are going to be working harder than they've ever worked before. You will get a couple of bad apples, but don't make a system based on, you know, one or two exceptions. And then the next one is around measuring tasks, not time. So companies really need to move away from time-based management, which they're used to, that kind of 9 to 5. I know you can still have people in on those hours, but the way you track things should really be task or project based, if at all possible. Again, I know some jobs don't allow that, but if it's possible to do that, then that is really the best way to do it. And that you know, plan your tasks at the start of the week, and you check in with people mid or near the end of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, and see what they've done. And it will be very, very obvious very quickly if someone is not doing their job or not getting their work done. And then my last one around companies is just checking in. It's really important to have those check-ins with people, to have we have a weekly stand-up, so having your kind of company or team stand-up. And it doesn't have to be company-wide. If you have a bigger company, you know, have the teams do a stand-up, plan what they're going to do for the week, and then check in midway through the week to see how people are getting on. And those sort of check-ins are really important. Staff morale is low at the moment. You know, people are under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So you've got to make sure that you're doing enough to support people, and ask them what they need. I think that keeping that line of communication open is really important. I try as well to check in with staff on an individual basis as well. Again, that is maybe not possible in larger companies, but within smaller teams, it definitely is. And then just some advice for all of us, really, and that I try to keep in mind for myself as well. We need to be kind to ourselves, because, as I said, everybody is under a huge amount of pressure, much more than they would normally be. These are not normal times. These are not normal circumstances. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Try to help people out. That's what I always try to do within my business, within my team, and within the wider community of Google and kind of Google partners. And then my last one is, I've forgotten what my last one was. Always be improving. So always really try to improve the processes and the systems and the communication and whatever the case may be. You're not going to get a perfect first time, and we don't. You know, it's something you're constantly, and we are constantly working on to improve and get better at. You know, and we have coaches, and we do a lot of training ourselves and for our team. And we have a business coach that we work with to always try to be improving how we do things. So, you know, everyone is learning in this environment, even companies like ourselves who've been doing this for a long, long time. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's update. And I would love to hear from you guys, particularly on this one around the lockdown and working from home. How have you found working from home? Has it been a huge challenge for you? Has it been an easy transition? What would you like to see when things do go back to some sort of normality in a year or so? Would you like to be able to work from home full time? Are you dying to go back to the office like I know some people are? Or are you looking for some sort of hybrid where you're going to work from home for 2 or 3 days and go to the office maybe for a couple of days a week as well? Before I let you go, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't to our YouTube channel. We went over 1,000 subscribers last year, which we're delighted about, but really hoping to get to that 2,000 soon. We also are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and LinkedIn is a big one as well. So do follow the company page on LinkedIn if you want to keep up to date with our weekly videos. Thanks very much, and I will see you guys next week.